I've been practicing for a while, right? Otherwise, not so much.
Okay, I figured it out. And we got the AI companion. And
That's
then
me, I'm sure.
enable AI notes.
It's my read AI notes, maybe.
Oh, well, maybe. I think I'm supposed to do it too.
I signed up for it a couple of years ago when it was fresh and brand new.
Yeah,
It it just automatically sends me messages if I miss the meeting even, which I think is delightful since sometimes I miss things.
that is pretty nice.
Yeah, I get so many free ones a month. As long
Okay.
as I don't exceed that number, I do okay.
Well, that sounds good.
Yeah, it works for me.
That's kind of all that matters. It's like,
To me, uh,
mhm. Uh, yeah, I think I don't know. I've got a recording. I got the AI thing going. I don't know. That seems like what it's supposed to be, right?
yeah,
I don't actually know what I'm doing.
you're probably going to be just fine. It seems like it might be even a little bit intuitive, so it takes care of you even when you're not.
That would be lovely. That would be
Uh,
lovely.
I think it actually makes us dumber, but you know,
I'm with you on that. And I'm already pretty low on the scale, so
I'm pretty low on the scale as well, and it can be kind of devastating
kind of
when I
devastated.
really don't know the simplest things.
100% with you on that. Yeah. Mm. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Karen. Hi, Bobby.
So I'm just setting this up just in case anybody comes in, but I won't be here for this. Have fun.
Thanks, Amanda. We do like it when you grace us with your appearance. And for those of you on the call already, Amanda has been a real rock star lately. I think you already know that, but we've got a whole lot of missing middle housing fund stuff going on with the city of Boardman right now, and she is helping to keep it all straight. So I am
She's
grateful.
good at that.
Hmm.
She managed those 350 kids at Sam Boardman pretty well, and all their parents and
Yeah,
all the staff.
that sounds worse,
It
actually.
does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It probably wasn't any more fun for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm not the easiest person to organize, but I bet you I'm easier than a giant school of children.
Easier than 350 kids,
I have to
60
be.
staff, and 1,000 community members. Yes.
Well, I was giving you the chance to say that I wasn't
No.
easier. So
Okay, you guys have fun.
thanks. Thanks
Thanks.
much. Okay, it's 101. Let's give it another minute or two. See who else we get. Hi, Ricardo. Hi, Richard. Bet you that's Amy on that AMS iPhone.
I'm here.
Amy, I totally did the recording part correct. I don't know if I did the AI notes correct.
I think you did. I saw it come through, so I think you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whew, close one. Close one. Um, how's everybody doing? Everybody got a good story? You're all on mute. You can't say a story. Okay. I'll just talk at you for another 60 seconds. Um, Pretty exciting. Tomorrow is the Urban Form launch day. So this committee's already created a project and finished it, which is pretty exciting. Well done, everybody. Well done. But Amy, are you up for talking about that in a little bit?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Not
Okay.
yet. We're going to give it
Um,
another 1 minute and then we're going to begin.
Yeah, sounds good. Everybody on this call should have received an invite to attend tomorrow's meeting, so hopefully everybody can join.
Yeah, I can see it in their eyes. Very excited. All right. We're going to start up. Thanks everybody for being here. As a reminder, our next meeting is only 2 weeks away on November 18th. That's in part because we skipped our October meeting and because we have a lot going on. And then we're going to be locked into a normal cadence. I believe it's the third Tuesday of every month. So in case you have any questions about that or that's a bad day all of a sudden, let me know. But we're going to do that in November and then December and January and onward in terms of schedule. All right. We have 3 real things to talk about today. And I have invited a guest, Gary Reddick, who should be joining us shortly. Gary is working on the master planning effort for us, the real estate development master plan. So he'll weigh in a little bit and we'll do some introductions. In fact, I should probably text him to make sure he's on his way. But the first thing we wanted to just make sure everybody's aware of is that tonight at your city council meeting, we will do a here's what we did with Urban Form. And so we'll do a product demo for the city council. Brenda, Ricardo, especially, oh, there's Gary. Hi, Gary. Karen, Richard, and Bobby, a little bit less. You have seen that product demo now a couple times, but this is going to be the very fast version because it's a city council meeting. So it's like the 10-minute version. Kwong was like, I don't know if we can even do it in 10 minutes. I said, you'll be fine. You've done this a billion times. You'll be okay. So it's worth celebrating that this committee had the idea to go forward with Urban Form, and a few months later, it's done and operational for your community. Amy, if you're there, do you want to talk about the launch event tomorrow? Because you're all invited to that as well. Amy Snyder, are you there? Okay, well, I'll talk to you about it. Oh, maybe she's there. Maybe. Okay, tomorrow at 11 a.m., and it's in your email, and it's in the latest email that I sent to you. We are having a virtual launch for Urban Form. So again, Ricardo and Brenda, you've seen it now a few times. Bobby, Richard, Karen, you've seen it a little bit less. But it is, we're going to walk through why we did the project, how it helps the city of Boardman with transparency around your zoning code and accessibility to your zoning code for anyone. Anyone can use it. Anyone that has the URL can log in and search any parcel in Boardman. A couple things that you might not know, but that you could be proud of. You have a few folks on your staff, most particularly Glenn, who is one of your engineers through, I think, Anderson Perry. Glenn in the building department. And then Carla have been evangelists for Urban Form. And so because of their efforts, the cities of Madras, Sisters, and Baker City are all now doing an application with us to the state to deploy Urban Form in their cities as well. So you guys are now sort of like a virus and you are contagious. Other cities across Oregon are catching it and wanting to do what you have just done. So, Bobby, are you hearing you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you.
Oh, I'm not making any noise that I'm aware of. Can you hear? Is there a lot of background noise?
No, I thought I saw you turned your mic off, so I thought you wanted to say something.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Just being a part of it.
No problem. So, all of this is to say, tonight we will talk about and celebrate Urban Form at City Council and tomorrow we will launch it formally to your whole community. It will be live for your entire community to use on a go forward basis. So I know sometimes it feels like you launch projects and then you just get updates, but this one actually happened. So you should be proud of that as committee members. Okay. The next one is just a short update on the moderate income revolving loan fund. That is the thing that this committee recommended to city council to spend $5,000 on. An effort for Boardman to be one of 2 or 3 pilot cities for the whole state. This is as a reminder, this is a state funded program. The state created a $75 million fund, which is meant to provide grants to developers building middle income housing in communities. The way it works is similar to an urban redevelopment authority, a URA, or a tax increment financing district. The developer then pledges to take the taxes that otherwise would be charged on that land to pay back to the city. The city has then uses those dollars to pay back a loan that they got from the state to provide the grant. That's how it works. I know that's a little confusing. On the 18th, we'll have a little presentation to actually walk you through how it works and the work that we're doing to set up that you as a pilot project. The cool updates are that economic development districts, which are nonprofits set up around the state to help different regions, want to do the monitoring and compliance for this program, which is great because no one else wants to do that. And then, Ricardo, maybe interesting to you, the Network of Oregon Affordable Housing would like to do some of the underwriting for the actual deals. So like, is this a fundable deal? Is this worthy of a grant, more or less? Can they pay it back as a loan through the tax revenue? Nobody else really wanted to do that either. So we're finding different partners to plug those different holes. Our partner, Stephen Brooks, who I've mentioned to you all before, is going to create all the legal documents for the city of Boardman. So like your loan agreements, your ordinance updates, working with the county assessor's office and the state on how the dollars flow back and forth. And then what we'll do is we'll use those templates and bring those to other cities all around the state. As a reminder, this program has existed since March and no one has used it yet at all. So you will be a guinea pig in creating templates that other smaller rural communities can use. So that's a second project that this committee has kicked off and is moving along. Any questions on either urban form or the work with moderate income revolving loan funds so far?
Nope.
These are just brief updates. So, okay, the bulk of our work today is around the real estate development master plan. We have a special guest with us. Hi, Gary. Gary Reddick in the house, who, when you guys hired us, we had said that we would like Gary to be part of our team to take on some of the big planning efforts that we would do together. And so guess what? That moment is approaching quickly. So what I wanted to do was a round of introductions because if we're successful in launching this master plan effort, you're going to see a lot of Gary. And so it's important for him to know who you are and for you to know who he is. He's going to be part of our team, our Missing Middle Housing Fund team around these different planning efforts. So Gary, I'm going to do a real quick intro to the committee. I know you already know this, but just to sort of set the stage. And then what I'd like to do is call on each of you. And if you would, please say who you are, why you are on this committee, and maybe some of what you've been thinking about this master planning effort. It can be brief, like if you take more than a minute, that's too much. And then if you wouldn't mind, Bobby, Richard, Karen, when I call on you, just turn on your camera for a minute so Gary can see you, unless there's a real good reason why you should not. And we'll go around the horn like that, and then we'll end with Gary, and then we're going to walk through the draft scope of work. Okay? All right. Brenda, since you're in my top left, let's start with you.
Hi, Gary. My name is Brenda Prophet. I serve on the city council. And I have been concerned about moderate income housing and stabilizing families in Boardman since 1998. So my interest right now is in finding housing that retains the young people of our communities to return after college or to stay here while they get jobs and be part of the team of people who work as volunteers for T-ball games and coaches and things like that. So that's my goal.
Great.
Thank you, Brenda. Appreciate it. Ricardo?
Hello, Ricardo Rosales. I'm a longtime 26-year resident here in Boardman, Oregon. I'm part of the committee because I want to be part of the change and help grow this community that I do really love, and I love seeing all the growth, and I just want to make it a better place. And I really think this master plan is going to give us a clear direction for the whole community to make it just look beautiful and affordable for everybody.
Thanks, Ricardo.
Thank you.
Bobby? You gotta turn on your mic there, Bobby. You're mute.
Can you hear me?
We can now. Thank you.
Sorry, Gary, I'm Bobby Barnes.
Hi.
I lived in Boardman since 2015. And one thing I've always noticed is the lack of housing that it has. It doesn't seem to have the housing needed for the correct need of population that this town could provide. And so voted on, I feel like it was a good place to put my efforts. And Nathan had spoke about master plan and how he had thought that it was pretty wild that we didn't have anything in place. And I looked it up a little bit more, and it was definitely out of place that we did not have one. So I think we're heading in the right direction for it.
Thanks, Bobby.
Great. Thank you.
Michael, welcome. We'll get to you in a second, but we're just doing introductions to Gary, who's part of our team around the planning efforts that we're about to embark on. So we're trying to get him to know everybody on the committee, and then you to know him. Richard, can you go next?
Yes, can you see me okay? Sorry, I'm at
Gotcha.
work.
Yeah.
So I'm Richard Rockwell. I'm on our city council with Brenda and Karen. I've lived in Boardman since '82, but my father grew up in the area since the '60s, actually earlier than that, the '50s. And so I've seen this town grow from basically nothing to what it is now, and I'm interested in continuing to see it grow. I am a firm believer that innovation is what drives our future, and so I'm interested in all the different ways that we could possibly bring in housing that's going to be affordable to people here at Boardman, so that they stay. I mean, I have 6 children of my own, and I want them all to be here, and so and I want them all to be a part of the community because I believe that's important. And so the only way you do that is you have housing here that people can afford and jobs. So
Thanks, Richard. Karen? Do we have a Karen?
Hey,
Hello.
okay, I'm on the city council and I've just had my heart in Boardman, so this is a great project to try to get better housing that people can afford to live in.
Thanks, Karen.
Sure.
Thank you.
Michael, you're our closer.
Thanks. Michael Graham, Senior Director of Operations for the Tillamook plant here at the port site in Boardman. I've been here about 8 years. Actually, not about, I've been over 8 years. So why I'm interested and the reason why I have passions around this are a couple. First, from a business sense. Tillamook is a proud business in this community. We have great ties to Oregon, and hopefully, if you're from Oregon, everybody recognizes Tillamook cheese and ice cream, and the rest of the dairy products we make. And Tillamook's growing, and as part of that growing, I've needed to scale up my the experience and workforce here. One of the huge hurdles that I have come across is that middle income housing, especially here in the Boardman area, have a lot of people that wanted to work for Tillamook that chose not to because when they looked at the housing situation, it just wasn't compatible to what they were looking at and what they wanted, and so missed out on some just great candidates that could have helped out Boardman. We're still seeing that currently, and I would say, we actually have a lot of, I would say, our workforce is smaller, but we have 250 people working here. Out of that 250, I would say over 70% hit that middle income range. And you know what? Most of my employees live somewhere else other than Boardman, even as far away as Tri-Cities, etc., because of the housing situation. A lot of them say, oh, hey, if there were more amenities here, I would move here. But when really I sit down to it, they're traveling that far every day because they live where if they lived here, then they could choose whether they wanted to eat at a restaurant. And if they started here, the amenities would come. And I think everybody agrees that it's trying to get over that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is a personal, I've lived in Idaho and Utah and California and Colorado and Washington. And because I've been in dairy most of my career, I've always been in small rural towns. And I've seen really just amazing solutions to this. This isn't a problem that's just a Boardman problem or just an Oregon problem or even a Western United States problem. It is a problem I've seen everywhere. And I've seen communities come together and solve this and come up with really great solutions that that have benefited the community. And I've seen when those solutions are right, the uplift it gives for the whole community. And the pride it brings, the excitement, somebody said the innovation, right? It's amazing when you go in a small town and they have some innovation that I would say rival, the urban areas. And that is just something that people are drawn to. So that's my, I gave about 4 cents, twice as much as 2 cents, but that's who I am.
Thanks, Michael. So, Gary, I'd like you to introduce yourself, and that what they need to know about you is a little bit about your background, and why you're excited to work with Missing Middle on this project.
Well, first of all, it's been really heartening to hear each of you kind of condense why you're either on the city council or why you're on the committee or your love for Boardman. And you'll understand a little bit better when I'm in 3 or 4 minutes when I'm through with what I'm going to say, why I've felt from the beginning this was a really good match. Um, I've been an architect based in Portland for right at 50 years. I've had the opportunity to, as Nate knows, do architecture in many places, some even in other countries. And as you probably have experienced, and you've heard other people say, the more you travel, the more you cherish this state. And so I come at this whole conversation and work I do with a deep love for Oregon. I grew up in small towns. I was born and lived in Baker until I was 11. We still called it Baker then. My dad was a fireman. We moved to Grants Pass, and then I went on to college in Eugene for 6 years, and then moved to Portland, excuse me, in 1972. My passion throughout all of this career has been in any locale, making quality places for people to live, work, and play. And I've been invited a number of times to work in small towns in the US to help them build greater livability into their existing community. Many times it was a kind of a revitalization exercise. And maybe it goes clear back to my days in Baker, I don't know, but I really arrived at a number of years ago an understanding that I was getting my greatest satisfaction out of being hands-on working with people in smaller towns. And I especially love Eastern Oregon, where I have a number of friends. And so this opportunity to work with all of you is kind of a dream for me. Most specifically, I'm really interested in helping in the housing problem. Nate knows I wear another hat where I'm a partner in a cottage design build company trying to do missing middle housing in the Willamette Valley, and hopefully later in other parts of Oregon. But I'm just so excited to get in the saddle with you guys and solve these issues.
Thanks, Gary. So, as you guys know, we've taken the last couple meetings to suss out what was important to you and where we thought a master plan could go. And so a couple updates or reminders. Number one, you recommended to City Council that we invest up to 50K as a sort of challenge amount of capital to fuel a master planning effort. Two updates on getting other folks to come to this table. We met last week with PGE, which has a generating plant in Boardman, and they were very, very curious and interested about this process and potentially being a sponsor of this work, in part because they have the exact same problem that Michael just walked us through with Tillamook. It's very hard for their employees to find housing in Boardman, and they would like to try to be part of the solving of that. Number one. And then number two, you'll see when we walk through the draft scope of work, the Good Shepherd recently bought the big chunk of land right on Main Street. And so through Brandon, we're getting in touch with them to fold them into this process so that we can prioritize that big chunk of land early on. So I'm going to share my screen. Can you guys give me a thumbs up? Maybe Michael, I think you're the only screen I've got left. Can you see it? Yeah? Okay, cool. So we've developed this scope of work, and our intention is to go to bring this to the city staff. They've already got it, to go through and review it on a sort of a line by line item, and have you all go through it and review it. This can change and flex over time. Gary helped me develop this. Thank you, Gary. And what we're going to do today is go through it and see what's missing, the who should be doing what in terms of some of the public participation. And then we would come back on November 18th and you guys would say, this is good, this isn't good. But our hope is that on November 18th, you give us the thumbs up and we start taking this to other funders and begin the work. Okay, everybody kind of clear on what I'm talking about in terms of process? Review it over the next 2 weeks, come back on the 18th and say, yes, this looks like what we want. Bring all the city staff input to this as well, and then get going. That's the goal. Okay. So, as a reminder, our overarching goal: create a comprehensive and sustainable framework for future growth and development for Boardman. And we're going to emphasize housing and prioritizing, but not exclusively, sites the city controls, because we can move faster with stuff we already control. These specific objectives, these are the things that you all came up with. Optimizing land use, regulations, and policy. I heard from a lot of you, I think Brenda especially, we got to fix the system. Promote economic development and jobs, the balance. Karen, I know you've been talking to me a lot about this. It can't just have housing. You've got to have a balanced community where you've got amenities and shopping. Brenda, I'm going to call you out again. Enhancing housing diversity, including attainable options. You always say we need housing of choice. Roadmap and timeline. What goes where and in what order? That's a me addition. Use the market forces and sound economics as guides. Michael, I've heard you talk about that. We shouldn't just be doing something that's wish casting. We should be doing something that's actually grounded in financial reality. I think all of you have talked about sustainable design principles in green space. All of you, I've especially heard a little bit from Bobby and Ricardo, preserve that small town feel, have neighborhoods with amenities and balance. Vibrant, accessible, and inclusive spaces. Again, I think I've heard that mostly from Brenda. And then coordinate with other plans and efforts. Don't work in isolation. I know Richard talks about this a lot. And Karen, don't duplicate efforts. Carla, of course, is particularly obsessed with that one. And then we have real barriers, right? We've got real barriers in Boardman. So how do we improve connection? This background, I don't think you really need to worry about right now, but it's just how you came to be. And so now this is sort of the big new stuff for you. This is the phases. And what Gary and I have done is put some timelines to the first 3 phases, and just try to kick those off. This is, we'll go through each of these in a second, but more or less, the first 3 phases are get as much input as possible and engage different stakeholders. 4 through 8 is sort of the details, the nuts and bolts. The 9 is the how and when. And then the 10 is get it out there for everybody to see. And it becomes a guide for all different landowners and developers in Boardman. We also want to note there's 2 specific properties that are important to the city in this process. The first is the big property that you recently purchased north of 84, right across the street, more or less, from the Sage Center. We call that the Frederickson property because it was owned by the Fredericksons. I think I spelled it 2 different ways in this document. My apologies. And then we've got the big chunk of land across Main Street that's owned by Good Shepherd. So those are 2 deep dives that we really want to get right because they're frankly massive pieces of land under relatively friendly control. Okay, before I get into this, and I'm going to ask Gary for help on some of these, any questions about the big picture before we get into the nuts and bolts? Okay, here we go, nuts and bolts. So for phase 1, gathering of everything, what I'd like you to do is look at this and then tell me, are we missing anything obvious? There are ongoing efforts, and we do not want to replicate or duplicate those efforts. We want those efforts to fuel this planning process. One of them is the work that Carla's leading on zoning code updates and updating your comprehensive plan. And then we know that you're also doing a lot of work right now on utilities and surface infrastructure, your transportation network, your power, that kind of stuff. A part of this that the Parks Department does is the open space inventory. And then a piece that you haven't really done a lot of writ large is the market analysis and kind of who owns what across Boardman. So if we are going to have a master plan of development, particularly for housing, we need to know what are the comparables for land and pricing, and then sales points and rents across Boardman. And that's a dynamic thing. It changes and flexes all the time. But we have to know all of that. And so then we would have a summary and then basically tell everybody what we found in a series of maps. So I'm sure Carla is going to be very thorough when she goes through this list with us, but is there anything on any of your minds that's obviously missing here that we need to add in?
I might jump in just for a second, Nate. Nate put my recommendation for the title of this, The Gathering of Everything. There was a little humor in that, but it's really the success of what we do over the next year or however long this takes to get to a successful outcome starts with the importance of this first group of tasks. And I know a lot of this information you already have. I've learned some of that from Nate, and I made a couple of trips, some of you know, with Ryan there in the last few months, but I'm going to lead a lot of this going forward. And it's terribly important that I understand and build a foundation of what is real. And that really means block by block and property by property so that we have a good base map to work from.
Thanks, Gary. Any other comments? Additions? Okay, I'm going to keep you moving. The next phase is assessment. And this is really meant to find consensus among the core stakeholders, which starts with you. Okay, so this is a project led by the Housing Committee. So it's absolutely critical that once we sort of have a big picture of what's going on in Boardman and what is ongoing work, it goes back to your core values. I'll lead you back up here for a second. Right? These specific objectives. You all came up with this and I'll nod your heads. I think that city staff and, other key property owners and leaders of some of the other plans would also nod with you, but we have to make sure they are, right? Like everything that's on here looks good to you guys. We have to reaffirm that it is, and then create the wish list and make sure that staff, other key stakeholders in the community are bought in and that they agree. You guys are going to be key to this. This isn't like a missing middle housing fund. This is what we think you should do. At the end of the day, this is what the housing committee thinks we should do in Boardman. We are just your muscle. We are your capacity. So this piece is really key. It's about getting everybody aligned, the core stakeholders across Boardman. Are there key stakeholders here or missing that we've got to make sure are in here? We'll have a lot of time to weigh in on this, but this is sort of like the key interview list. Who are, we're going to do a big picture part in the next one in phase 3. But like if you had to pick 20 people in Boardman that really, really need engaged from day one, who are they? And are we missing them on this list?
I think that we need to add, I'm looking here, we need to add the school district on here. Schools, educators. I mean, I've worked for the school for a long time, and I know Brenda did too for a long time. And I'm sure we can both come up with a long list of people that left. Some of it, for whatever other reason, but some of it was because they couldn't find a place to live in Boardman that was affordable.
Yeah.
Had to live somewhere else, and then eventually they left because it cost them too much money to drive.
Good call. Good call. Thanks, Richard.
Yep.
Layton.
Who else we got?
Well, I know that she doesn't live in the city of Boardman or even in the 97818, but Debbie Rady is a powerful individual. The company that she works for, Boardman Foods, is also not inside the city limits, but it is, and she works on many, many, many other things that are involved in the city. And she would be a great resource for talking about housing and what's needed and trying to preserve that. She fits all the same values that we've been talking about.
That's right. Yeah. Also, I really like Debbie. She's super easy to work with. Thank you. We can get more employers in there too.
Right. I think that 3 Mile Canyon Farms would be a good one. Beef Northwest. Now, I know that both of those companies, or particularly Beef Northwest, have purchased their own homes in an effort to find housing for their new employees. But I think that they would also have, some interest in how this comes together.
Well, and lessons, right? Lessons to
Yeah.
share.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, Brenda.
I'm walking, I wasn't able to look at the list, but is like Morrow County Health or the clinic here in town, are they on the list as well?
No, but I'll add them right now.
I know that the clinic here in town, they have housing set aside for new employees specifically because there's no,
Yeah, perfect.
I also think that the Port of Morrow, if you could get somebody from the board or the Port Commission rather, or if you can get somebody from the Port leadership team. I don't know, there'd be Mark and Walter and Lisa, quite a few people, or even Rick Stocco. I mean, there's a number of people that might be a good fit for that.
Awesome.
These are great.
Well,
And
we
maybe
have
even
more-
the county commission
County Commission, yeah.
and the,
Well, let's pause here. We can add more, but this is already a pretty rock star squad.
Nathan, so I'm clear they have to be in city limits.
They don't. They do not. That's sort of up to you.
Hmm.
Right? Like this is all about getting housing for Boardman writ large. And a lot of the stakeholders that impact Boardman aren't necessarily city residents. I think it's going to be driven a lot by city residents, especially this committee. But yeah, these planning processes are generally best when they include a broad swath of people.
Yeah. I can't see Amazon turning their eye against this.
Well, maybe for security, maybe.
I think that they'd want it. They're all over.
I actually think Amazon might be a good fit. They just did a big housing development in Seattle.
Yeah.
Big, huge one in that area.
Well, I think the majority of their employees are also commuting, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, we're going to keep moving. So then this next step is the one that's going to start to feel really, really hands-on. This is, you could almost think of it as planning charrettes and workshops, okay?
Right.
So we've contemplated at least 4 big workshops. A big one for the whole city at the beginning, a big one for the whole city at the end, and then 2 deep dives on those 2 properties. But we would also have 2 very specific workshops just for you, just for this committee, based on what we find from those larger charrettes. Because again, at the end of the day, this is a plan that you all have to own. And so this public process is meant to get broad participation. But then at the end of the day, you to take the data that we get from that broad participation and start to put it into an actual plan. Gary, this is really your world. Can you kind of describe what happens during these types of planning charrettes in your experience, please?
Well, first of all, we cast a kind of wide net of hope that people will come. It's all about stakeholder input. And some of them will be focused and some will be wider and more general. But it can involve the better part of a day, or sometimes be a little more directed and be like a half a day. But it's the opportunity to get everybody's thoughts and wishes and desires and complaints and everything out in the open. And if you think of it as a funnel, you get all of this information started and people talking at the beginning, and it winnows down so that you've got some kind of outcome after a few hours that is a product or benefit from all of that input. And that then, those successive charrettes began to build the greater how of how this all gets designed and put together. And it's about Boardman. It's not about me or Nate or other team members that we'll bring in. And we're pretty experienced in running those kind of meetings and getting people to feel comfortable participating and making them fun. And they can be kind of raucous and fun and enjoyable. And I've even gotten a little sense of that spirit as you went around introducing yourselves this morning. I think there's a ton of pent up enthusiasm there to get after these issues.
Thanks, Gary. So this is the part that's like kind of a little messy sometimes. It's like, you know, we facilitate it with different workshop and charrette leaders, and sometimes it's just drawing. You know, somebody's drawing big ideas on the map, and people are taking what they've learned from the gathering of everything, and from you, who are providing the big objectives and sort of the parameters for this process that comes from this housing committee. But then everybody starts to brainstorm, and we start to play a little bit. You know, we've heard from all of you what's really, really important: keeping young people here, you know, be part of the change, have Boardman be the beautiful place that you all love, the right amount of housing to serve your population, innovation, driving what happens in Boardman on a go forward basis, right? And then just having pride and uplift to the whole community. These are what you just said 10 minutes ago. This is that part where we try to harness all of that and make people feel like they have a voice in this process, because they do. The process is better if everybody has a say in it. So this is that chunk.
Nate, I'll give us a specific example. In most of these charrettes, let's say that's in like the large conference room you have in City Hall or some place big enough to accommodate, in some cases, maybe way more people than that. But by the end of the meeting, we have taken down from the large pad that's got a sticky on the back, and the walls of that room, in many cases, are filled with all the comments over the last 2 or 3 hours from that meeting. And then one of the fun exercises is everybody gets a big number of colored dots, let's say 6 or 8, and they get to go around the room and put dots on those things that happened in the meeting that are of particularly interest or concern of them. And then, as you can well imagine, at the end of the meeting, you've got a graphic that helps you understand where the number 1, number 2, and number 3, et cetera, interests are back that help drive the the remainder of the design process.
Yeah. Which I know a bunch of you have done a process similar to that with me before. So nothing like putting dots on walls, right? So any questions about this piece of it? Okay. And I want to stress that like this has to be this committee's plan. So when we go to start planning these charrettes, this committee is going to weigh in a very big way about who is there, how it happens, what should be our priorities, and then how we interpret the results. Again, this is a housing committee led project. So we want to make sure you guys have ownership of that. Okay, the next 4 through 8, we walked through these a couple times over the last month and a half, but these are really this starts to be the very specific actions and recommendations that happen in a real estate development master plan. So one of the things that you guys keep saying is we have to change the system. We have to change how development happens. It's not just about build this here. It's about how you go through permitting, how you go through zoning. What is your design standards for your community? I heard you say again and again and again since the summer, you don't want just anything. You know what bad housing development looks like. So when you
Okay.
start to create urban design standards, you start to build the box that complements and enhances your community, right? And so a lot of this is around housing, but it's also around trees, public art, your transportation networks, right? How things look and feel in your community. We already know for phase 5, the city's already going through a land use and zoning update. So this process will weigh in on that and give very specific recommendations to what in your codes have to be updated in order for the city to become what you want it to be. That goes back then to infrastructure, right? So how do we actually deal with those big barriers of your power lines, the river, the railroad, the highways? You have all these east-west barriers. How do we start to have a plan for the infrastructure focused on connection? Brenda, I see your mic is on.
Yes, Nathan, because I want to go back to urban design for a second.
Let's get into it.
Recently, we had a developer talk to us about putting in some mobile homes in the moderate income level, et cetera, et cetera. And somewhere along the line, this developer changed their mind about what they would do. And now they've decided that they'll take these single wide modular homes and put them, I don't even think they're 10 feet from the next modular home. And they're going to divide them in half with no parking for the second person. And they're going to rent them out as duplexes. And there must be, I don't know, 30 or 40 of them in rows, just row after row of this, what I would consider terrible housing. Just might as well have an apartment building or something. And will our urban design work, or could our urban design work, prevent that type of development?
The intention is that you create standards as a community, right?
Yeah.
And those standards have goals for like what the type of housing you want to see is possible, right? Like attainable at different price points. I heard you say that a million times. Then
Yes.
what does it look like? What does it feel like? How is it operated? Those are design standards that you would have in this plan. Yes.
Would they have enough
Bren-
teeth to prevent a developer from doing this very
Brenda,
thing? Yes.
Brenda, many communities, and maybe you're familiar with this, have put in place design review committees. And that means that anybody proposing to do something within the city limits or particularly within the urban design center must get approval for having followed the design standards that that city has put together. And the whole reason for doing that is letting everybody know from the start that in order to come do something in my town, you have a certain design level to meet. And ultimately that right from the beginning starts to make a better place.
Okay. Well, it's quite possibly too late for what is already happening, but that sounds wonderful, Gary. How long does it take to get from here to there?
Months. It'll take months. You know, you want this couched in a bigger picture plan, Brenda. I would caution against setting up your design standards and parameters based on like a single development. You know, that's a thing that you can point to, that you could say, I don't like this, I don't want this. This is why we need urban design standards.
Yeah.
It starts to get a little weird when you have a single development driving the whole process.
Right.
Yeah. But okay, I'm going to keep going because we're almost done. Transportation, you already have ongoing transportation planning happening with your engineers. So you just have to make sure that that coordinates there. But I heard you say something, Brenda, about parking. This is one of the places this comes in. A really, really fun part of my background is that I helped redesign the parking systems for 2 cities. I'm being facetious. I think it's really fun. Nobody else thinks it's fun. But I really do love parking systems, and I'll bring that experience to this process. Parking, as you know, is emotional, and it's better if it's based off of data and what people actually want and need. And then phase 8's the big one. This is the big one where you guys really come in big time. So we're going to do a deep dive into those 2 main sites, but this is the part of the planning process where it says this goes here. This type of housing is what we want there. This is where we should have a commercial corridor that looks and feels like XYZ. This is the part where people start pointing at maps and saying, is it possible to do this here? And sometimes the market will say yes, sometimes the market will say no, sometimes the ownership or infrastructure says yes or no. But this is the part of the plan where we start to say, this is the type of housing Boardman needs, and here are places it could go. And here's what it could look like. Because you'll have design standards, you'll have urban design, you'll have an actual master plan where you start to point on the map. And then we can start to incorporate some of those housing innovation priorities. Thanks, Brenda. I see your note. Oh, and I see Richard. Sorry, I missed your note, Richard. Should we bring a college student to our group? Yeah, that'd be great. I don't know if you're allowed to actually bring them onto this committee formally, because your committee is set up by city council ordinance, I believe. But we absolutely should have some younger folks at our tables.
So not to get you off track here or whatever, but it just popped in my head. So the reason why I bring it up is we just recently passed a bond and a school bond or whatever. And so one of the topics that came up is wanting somebody from the community on the bond advisory committee, and then actually having a student on the advisory committee that is going to be here when the projects get done in a couple of years.
There you go.
So like my daughter, for instance, she's a 7th grader. She got asked to be on the committee because she'll be there going to school. Whereas my older kid, he's going to be graduated by then. So they didn't ask him. So I just thought, like, if we're talking about trying to find affordable housing for potential people that are going to live here, maybe a college student that, you know, wants to move back here and whatever, just having their knowledge or advice or whatever might be helpful. That's all.
I love that.
Good idea. And so this is the piece where I think you guys start to get really, really excited, right? Because that's why you're all here. And then the implementation plan talks about how, what goes first, with what money, in what order. There's reasons why sometimes when you develop in a certain place versus another, it doesn't do as well financially or for the community. There are places to begin that leverage existing strength in your community, and there are places to get to further in the process. This is a pretty important point because everybody's going to want to start somewhere in particular, but you have to be kind of ruthless about starting where the market shows you will have success. If you have a couple projects that you launch and they fail, it is less likely that you'll get to keep building projects. So the order of things matters, and that's what an implementation plan is all about. How do we begin with what capital, working through different site ownership, et cetera. And then phase 10, tell the world, celebrate. It's a lot of work. I'm going to pause and see if there's other questions or comments because we're coming up on time and I want to make sure you guys get out of here at a reasonable hour. Thoughts, questions? Okay, you can bet your biscuits that city staff is going to have a lot to say about this scope of work over the next couple weeks. So we are going to take their comments and suggestions. And if you have other comments or suggestions or questions, please bring those to me via email. And then Gary and I will get this updated. But our intention is to come back to you in 2 weeks' time and get you to have a thumbs up or thumbs down on this scope of work. And if we have a thumbs up, then we're going to get started. You've already appropriated capital to begin. We are going to begin. That is our intention. Any questions on that? Okay. Gary, any last words of wisdom as our new team?
It stuck with me all the way from when Brenda did her introduction, and several others brought it up. They said if we're successful, we'll have kids that want to come back and live here after college. And it wasn't said, but that also would mean that when people are looking to relocate, Boardman gets on that list. And I can't tell you how important that is to me. That's one of my main speech points when I'm working with places to say, this will be a way of measuring success is if we've been able to pull this off. If kid says, man, I loved it so much there, I'm going to go back and live there when I get out of school. And so just know that that's very much on my mind.
Thanks, Gary. Okay, with that, unless there's any last comments or questions, going once, going twice. Okay, we will see you in 2 weeks. And if you're able to join us tomorrow for the Urban Forum launch, 11 a.m., you have that information in a couple emails from me and my colleague, Amy Snyder. That's a celebration because that's the first thing that you as a committee launched and it is now done. So we're really proud of that work and we want to tell everybody about it tomorrow. So thanks again, everybody, for being here and bringing your time and wisdom. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
All right. So long.
See ya.